Assalamualaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for doing this.
Not at all, my pleasure.
So this is how we go about is we start from the very basics. आप कहाँ पैदा हुई थी?
मैं actually Cardiff,
Oh.
Wales.
अच्छा, nice.
मेरे वालिद अपनी सर्जरी की ट्रेनिंग कर रहे थे वहाँ.
अच्छा.
So he was at the University of Wales, I believe, and I was born there.
Oh, and how was your childhood like?
It was here and there. I spent maybe 4 years almost in Cardiff. Don't remember a whole lot of that, obviously. फिर उसके बाद मेरे दादा का हॉस्पिटल था मुल्तान में. तो फिर हम मुल्तान में थे मेरे ख्याल से 1.5-2 साल तक. वो मुझे थोड़ा बहुत याद है. और उसके बाद हम रावलपिंडी मूव हो गए. And then I grew up school, college, रावलपिंडी और फिर medical college के लिए मैं Karachi.
And what kind of a kid were you? Were you very sharati?
No, not at all. I think I was the same then as I am now. Very boring as a child.
You're not boring.
So you grow into it, right? When you're a kid and you're that way, you're a little boring.
So you saw your father being a surgeon. Was that something that inflicted you? कि नहीं मैंने भी surgeon बनना है?
No.
What made you?
I didn't want to do it at all. My mother was a pathologist, and I really enjoyed. I used to go to work with her, and I used to work in the lab. And मेरे ख्याल से FSC की जो छुट्टियाँ होती थी FSC से ही maybe even metric के बाद से she had me do stuff in the lab. Like I'd be like the total छोटे का भी छोटा doing the hemochromometer for hemoglobins, and then I learned how to do differentials, and then she'd take me to the microbiology. So an hour every day she would plate the organisms and do the sensitivities, this and that. So I kind of learned a lot of that before I was actually like between 15 and 18.
You're a medical student.
I wasn't even a medical student, right? But she would teach me as it went along, and I picked a lot of stuff up. So I honestly thought that I would take up pathology, and surgery actually I found was, it's not like I didn't appreciate it, but the lifestyle I thought was really hard, and I didn't think that I would do it.
And then coming from Pindi all the way here, so what was the transition? Kaise, like?
So I had spent 1 year in medical college at RMC क्योंकि उस वक्त कराची के हालात जो थे बहुत ख़राब थे. सब कुछ लेट होता था. जो literally I think medical college होता था लोगों को 6-7 साल में होता था. सब कुछ लेट होता था because of there were student unions and this and that, a whole other ball game there. तो पिंडी में तो एकदम से शुरू हो गया था. मतलब जून में ख़त्म हुआ, रिजल्ट आया FSC का, अगस्त में कॉलेज शुरू हो गया. So I spent a year there. So when I came here, academic pressure इतना ज़्यादा नहीं था क्योंकि by the time I got here, I had actually been promoted to second year there. इतना time होता था बीच में. Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of academic pressure, which allowed me a lot of leeway to sort of get used to living away. Having said that, it wasn't really hard because 5 of us came from the same school and college from there. And we were all in the hostel. We were all friends. And, even if you're not fast friends somewhere, when you're all, you come together, you become a group, right? There are people that I'd known since I was a kid, like ever since I'd come to Pindi. So it was very nice to have that built-in support system. And I think I flourished when I came here because in RMC, there was, at that point in time, there was a lot of this really weird gender separation in which, if you accidentally spoke to a member of the opposite gender, you'd get on this list that was like the naughty list, and it was just, I felt that it was just so stupid. Here everybody was becoming a doctor. किसी चीज़ का किसी चीज़ से क्या ताल्लुक है? and there were a lot of like this political crap, and you'd have to take shelter because they were like, oh, falane log unki firing ho rahi hai. It was so stupid. And here, what was so refreshing was that it was, there was nothing, no gender related things, there was no politics, it was just, learning and being part of a community. And so it was for me, it was just, the world opened for me, and I was like, this is where I want to be, and this is, and really I credit this place, and that's why I have so much affection for it, is that really it put down the basic scaffold of the person that, obviously basic to ghar pe hua hoga, lekin uske baad jo usko solidify kiya was this institution in the 5 years I was here.
During med school, when was it that you said, surgery?
Oh, it was my first rotation in 3rd year.
Oh,
yeah.
Who was it with?
It was Dr. Yusuf Ali. Yeah, Dr. Yusuf Ali, who was here for a while. So Dr. Yusuf Ali the, और उस वक्त वो जो GS का वो था, मेरे ख्याल से Dr. Shaista, Dr. Yusuf Ali साथ थे. Was it that? It may have just been Dr. Yusuf Ali at that time I was assigned to. So yeah.
What made it?
It's just the disease processes and the sort of operating room and the hands-on kind of thing. I am kind of a hands-on person, and it's not like I didn't not like other things. For the longest time I thought I was going to do ENT. Because at that time the ENT folks were just, it was such a team. Dr. Iftikhar Salahuddin, Dr. Nasir Ahmed was the section head there, and they were very student focused, and it was always like a fantastic rotation. And that's so I thought I would do ENT, and but then I did an elective in it, and I was like, no. But my husband, by the same token, he worked in the same thing, and he took that up as a profession.
So once you were done with your MBBS, so what made you decide that this is what I'm going to do? Yeah, you were like, नहीं पहले general surgical, then फिर decide करते हैं colon and rectal करना है, या was it from get go?
No, not get go at all. When I started, I wanted to do transplant surgery. Because when I was younger, transplant naya ho raha tha, and I know that my father used to do them. He started doing them, like he was part of the program that was very early, like had brought it on, and they had a program there in the hospital that he was at, and I saw how it was sort of changing people's lives. और उस वक्त सिर्फ renal transplant की बात थी, बहुत बड़ी बात थी उसमें. So I wanted to do that, and so uske liye you have to obviously do general surgery first and go forward. And then as I went into general surgery, just like I didn't enjoy ENT finally, I absolutely did not enjoy transplant surgery. It was just, oh my God, I didn't like it at all. And then I had always in my mind, I knew that I wanted to come back to Pakistan, and I realized that this is one place where gender actually works in your favor. And I thought, okay, well, how do I position myself so that I can use gender as an advantage, and not just an advantage, like you want to make a difference, so and the options that were there really were mostly breast surgery, a urology, and colorectal. And at one point I almost switched into a urology residency in my 3rd year of general surgery. Like literally I had talked to my program director, and they had offered me the position, and I was going to shift over. And then we were in a combined case with them where they were putting in stents for a case that we were going to do. And the urology resident was sitting there. He was wearing boots, and he had this whole thing in him, and he was doing that scope, and there was like, what coming up, and I was like, do I really? And then I thought to myself, I said, look, in the last 2 years or so, I've never not wanted to come to work in the morning. So obviously, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
And so I respectfully declined. I said, I'm so sorry.
It's not for me.
It's not for me. I don't think I want to move. So they were very kind. I was a little afraid then. They said, that's fine, not to worry. So then there was the option of breast and colorectal, and I always enjoyed abdominal procedures, right? I really enjoyed, that tactile feel. Yeah. So then it was sort of it was a no-brainer for colorectal.
And once you were done with that, you came back. You decided to come back.
No, we were there for 5 years after that. We finished, and my husband did his fellowship. Then we were consultants for 5 years there, just to sort of consolidate our skills, and then we came back.
Having, I won't say that it was this was a stable moment in your lives where you were consultants. You finally gotten to positions where you guys wanted. Having that with you, and then coming to Pakistan, we already know conditions, and we don't know whether it would work or not. So what made you come here?
So one of the things which is not great asset, I think. It's not a great characteristic, but it is something for me. And sometimes people say that that's like stupid, why use this way? But in general in life, when I set up an initial objective, I kind of stick to it, right? So because the initial objective was that, I really didn't think that much about it. That's one point. The other point was that really my parents were here. My mother-in-law had been with us, but my father-in-law had passed while we were there. And my mother-in-law had a home here, but nobody would let her sort of live here alone. So was in a constant state of flux, and it really felt especially I felt, I'm sure Mumtaz had his journey, but my journey was my parents have put nobody ever stopped me from doing anything ever.
Yeah.
And it was all in pursuit of my achieving my my potential, really.
Yeah.
And I felt like I couldn't just sort of fly off and with young children, I didn't want them to be so far away. The US is very, very far away.
Yeah.
I mean, the max you can ever try and get here is twice a year, and even then it's hard. It's expensive. It's when you sort of work there, it's not कि इतनी छुट्टी आपको मिल जाती है कि आप महीनों के लिए आ सकें. So I just felt that there was a lot of that. That was the right time. I wanted my children to have an identity that was similar to mine. I didn't want to set off on an entirely separate tangent. Those were the reasons.
And coming back to the institute where you graduated from, how was that feel like? And
that was fantastic. I just walked in. I mean, that's the thing that I feel, despite all of these fancy thoughts, that if I didn't have an opportunity to come and work here, I may have floundered and I may have struggled, because really, as I said before, that this place shaped me, and every place has its milieu and its politics and its things, right? But it was something I was familiar with, and this is not very different from the things that happen
back in the
US, right? So it was not, you just come and you identify the players, and that's all, and then you flow with it. It's not a new game, right? And by and large, very ethical, evidence-based, evidence-driven. People work hard. There's not कि भाई कोई काम पे नहीं आ रहा, कोई काम नहीं कर रहा. That happens other places, right? It's not. It's just I'm comfortable in this place, and so I'm very, very grateful that there was an opportunity. Because I don't know how it would have ended if I couldn't find a place here.
So while you were at it and being a surgeon, you were also married. You also had kids. How was that? How were you managing life? because we, like as surgeons, we talk about work-life balance and all of those things. Do you think there is a balance? How are you managing?
So there are a few things, and everybody has their own journey and their क्या कहते हैं, um, their plan and objectives, right? But my plan always was that I didn't want to start a family while I was in residency, because especially in those days there was no 80 hour, there was no, it was a much harder thing, and it would have been unfair to throw a child and a baby in the mix. So I waited almost till the very end, like just a few months before I graduated. My daughter was born. And then subsequently, my son was born during I took a gap year while Mumtaz was in his fellowship. And then the third one was born while I was faculty. So what I've always felt is that you have to be sure that you're fair to every relationship that you have. I think it's important, and most women in general, and women surgeons in particular, I think are good multitaskers. And I think that you have to keep things going, you have to solve problems in your feet, you can't ever, or you have to do your best not to allow the stresses or worries of one sphere trickle into the other. Especially, it shouldn't trickle into the children, especially when they're younger. When they're older, then you can tell them that I'm worried because of this, and they're like, fine, then I understand. But a baby or a toddler or a little one doesn't understand. So that should never be in play. I did find, I won't gloss that over, but I did find that while I was in the US and I had 3 children under the age of 5, I had a full-time job, and then there's the home, food, blah, laundry, and we had a nanny obviously to help take care of the children, but it was not an easy time. Like I now I joke, but even then I felt that the day would start on Monday morning at like 6 a.m. and it would end Friday night at like 11 p.m. Like it was, that whole 5 days was one long day.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're younger, I guess you could do it, but it wasn't really the ideal. I didn't feel it was. I don't think that I would have sustained it for that. Something would have given away.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You, somebody that we look up to, and you've been through a lot of struggle in your life as well. I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it or not, but there was a period in time where you were struggling with cancer and then you got treated. How was that period? How did you survive that?
So, Alhamdulillah, it wasn't, I had to go through surgery and chemo, and that's not ever pleasant, I don't think. But Allah ka shukar hai ke at no time did my physicians feel that the disease was sort of out of control or not manageable. So that's one really, alhamdulillah, that was the thing. The other thing is that even then I realized that I almost looked at it as a bit of a wake-up call, because I felt that I had become very laid back. And I was like, yeah, I gotta check how much I bet you around bas. And I feel that I had stopped trying to do extra, or as I always say, sort of reach my potential. And I feel that this was like a divine kick in the butt, saying, okay.
Only you can say that.
Well, that's how I felt, because when I came out of it, I came out a different person, really. Because the truth is that we are all always on borrowed time, right? It's not, like we've seen it in our dear friends, what has happened, and we're all on borrowed time, and every day is precious. And if you have been given a gift or a talent, if you don't use it to its potential, then that is being ungrateful. And I think, I've sort of a lot of faith, and some people may or may not agree or not. But I feel that you'd be answerable if you have something and you didn't use it. What do you say? Well, yeah, I don't think it was good enough, or I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So that really strengthened me. The other good thing I think that it allowed me to do is that my children were all home at that point. My daughter was getting ready to go to college. But सबकी जिंदगियों में मुश्किल वक्त आएंगे, and I'm sure it was hard for them, but I was grateful that it was still in my stewardship. Like, I could be there for them. It wasn't like they were off like thousands of miles away, having to deal with the fear of their mother being unwell. And so, that also helped. It's like training, like simulation for life for them, while I watched over and helped them through it. And दूसरी बात है कि all things said, other than the physical discomfort and all that, to be in family, the first thought that came to my mind the moment I heard the diagnosis was, and we had only been back to Pakistan for about 2 years. I think we came back in 15. I got diagnosed in 17. And the first thought, without any exaggeration, came up, thank God I'm here, right? Because I don't think, and people go through it there, that's fine, and more power to them. But the amount of love and support I got here was enormous, right? And my appreciation of what it is like to be part of a wider community of like-minded people who have, the same belief structures as you, who have the same social structures as you. There is no, I think there was no comparison. It really was such a time for being grateful. And it was eye-opening how much love people have, how much support can come out. Even, you just say one word and they'll be
there for you.
There for you, right? So, and because I'm not I'm sort of a little closed and sort of an introvert, it was really amazing for me. And so, in the end, now that it's all done, everything, I remember no badness other than the fact that I was mad at all my oncology friends कि इतने साल हो गए वही दवाइयाँ दे रहे हो जो 30 साल पहले पड़े थे, वही कि मिट्टी का तेल छिड़को, आग लगा दो, देखो क्या बचता है अंदर से. But they're getting better at it, so I forgive them.
So 2 more questions. One that so we know you as somebody who's very strong, who's amazing. What makes Dr. Sadaf Khan Dr. Sadaf Khan?
I think I have. What I'm always kidding about, that my brain's a sieve. I don't remember anything, right?
Yeah, you do.
So, I have diaries all over.
Yes.
Everything has a diary,
Yes.
because I truly forget.
Yeah.
I think, in a way, that is, it's a horrible thing, really, but now I've owned it. I'm like, but what that does is it allows me to kind of just move on.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of baggage because I don't remember it. And that's good and bad. Like, my sisters will tell me about what my kid used to say. She's like, "Yeah, beta, wo ye kehta tha." And I'm like, right? And every so often, when we're sitting together, then वो ये करता था, ये कहता था, या ये कहती थी और ऐसी थी. फिर मैं तस्वीरें देखती हूँ, फिर मुझे ख्याल आता कि हाँ, ये शायद ये होता था. But what that does is कि जो hurts हैं, slights हैं, ये हैं, वो हैं, जो disappointments हैं, you just kind of just move on. I don't, and again, ever since the thing is, each of us within us has multiple facets.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing that I feel is that you have to come to terms with the fact, and you have to understand and own that you are multifaceted. And you can't let any one identity overtake another identity. Take it, because all our identities, other than you're like, you have the core and then you have things going out, right? The core stays you and you have to protect it and you have to nourish it with good thoughts and make sure that negativity usme na ghuse, that core. Everything else is affected by the environment, the other people, like as a child, right? So as a child, your relationship with your parents is not just you, it depends on your parents. Some people have difficult parents, some people are fantastic, but you can't control anything. Same thing with your children. नहीं आप शुरू में आप जो मर्जी करें, but लोग ही बड़े होके सब हर कोई किसी का बच्चा होता है ना, right? आपके काम की चीज, आपके colleagues, आपके सब कुछ, you can only control one end of it. So you shouldn't let any one of these things be a definition of you. You shouldn't allow that to define you. And when you feel that one thing is not working well, you have to weigh it and say, how important is this to me? If it is not that important to you, just be like, okay, move on. Yeah, maybe drop that scope or whatever. But if it's important to you, then you make a conscious decision to, well, how do I make this better? And I think that is what, with time and age, I think I have gotten better at. Again, what would I know? Because I forget. But that's, I guess that's if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. So one last message that you'll have for our audience. It can be residents, students, anybody out there.
So one last message that I would have is that whenever you pick something, make sure it's something that you really love to do, right? Because if you wake up in the morning and more than a few days a month, you're like, one day a month I'll give you. One day a month if you feel like, this isn't what I like to do, then it's not what you want to do. Because life is short, we're all on borrowed time. It has to be something that is worthwhile, something that allows you to make an impact, allows your soul to flourish. People who are stuck in livelihoods that they don't like or lives that they do not like actually end up, I feel, becoming bitter, and just then the rest of your if your core doesn't work well, everything around it goes bad.
Totally.
And that's what I say. And then the thing is that the strength of your core is everything. So if something is making you unwell, like if you're in work that is making you making your soul unhappy, then you have to rethink it, because that is all important. If you don't have that, everything else will fall apart.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you so much. It's always a joy talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.